had a deposition today, and all the lawyers' questions made me feel like I was a really, really bad doctor. We don't always get everything right first time. You would have caught the collapsed lung. And it may have taken a minute, but you would have saved him.
Not sure Robbie would agree with you. He's been riding me all day.
Well, Robbie's leaving for 3 months. And, with Robbie gone, I really don't want you to leave either.
It's in this episode that King finds Langdon and helps him. Like, it's a reversal of season 1 when he finds her, which is great. And like, he's wondering if he's ready to be back. She assures him that he is. What is she seeing in him on this first shift? Because we know how other people feel about him being back, like Robbie, but like, she's rooting for him.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, Mel is so team Langdon. She has no idea about the Langdon Santos thing at all, because she's just an innocent little butterfly. But, oh yeah, I think something that Mel sees in Langdon that I'm not sure if any other character sees is he actually is a very caring person, and his like kind of asshole cockiness is such an act. I mean, he was the only one that tried to get to know this new person in the first season and this first day, and choosing to learn her as opposed to dismiss her. And you see, I think Mel sees exactly what he's capable of. And something like what Langdon's been through. And I think she immediately is like, well, you did the work. Yeah. Knowing it's possible to slip, obviously, she's a doctor, but it's still like, no, I believe you want this, and I believe you did this. And I think she just sees him a little clearer. I think he lets down his wall with Mel, and I don't think he lets down his wall with anyone else. And so I feel like it was just it was a really nice moment for us to have, a few of these opposite scenes of, when Mel was a patient and he turns off the lights versus the season 1 and this, and it was just, I think she sees what he's capable of, and to be able to be that person for Langdon means also the world to Mel. To have someone who actually listens to her and cares about her, even though they only met one day, it just, not many people take the time to get to know her, or at least try. And so it means the world. And I think she's doing what comes naturally to her, of just supporting and being a loving person.
Is it because she also sees that side of him that she opens up to him about the deposition? Because until then, she's kind of brushing people off about it, but she does tell him, like, I felt like a bad doctor sitting there. And that's not something she's been telling anyone else. So is it that, or does she also kind of see that he may need to hear that?
I think at times Mel could be a little bit myopic of just like really seeing what's in front of her. And I think it's a little bit of both, though. I think also hearing from someone who, we didn't get to see it as an audience, but hearing from Robbie saying that she's one of the best that he's ever trained, which is tough because you have to hear those things instead of see it in the second season. But to have that and that background of apparently she's been killing it. And so this guy comes back and he needs help. And I think whether or not she knows that he's not being helped, I don't think that matters to her as much as, she just sees someone she cares about is like, let's go. I can do this.
There are some fans who would love to see King and Langdon get together, but is that something that's even on King's radar, like in any way, whether it's him or anyone else?
I don't know about anyone else, not Langdon at all. I think it's really interesting when you're given certain information that is, it's dogma. These are the facts about your life. And then, well, there's still a bunch of gray, and we as actors fill it. And there's this weird thing of like, I've I've always seen Mel and played Mel a certain way. And so I can't say with certainty what she is. I've always seen her as asexual, as someone who wants companionship and friendship, but the romantic stuff is just not important to her in my mind. It's just not what it's about. And so I think, but I have to keep it loose enough just in case the writers are like, oh, and here's a boyfriend. And it's like, oh, I have to adjust how I've been playing her. But like for me, I can just say my opinion has always been that she's asexual, which is also would be really cool to explore because that's a very much non-spoken of and absolutely not like the amount of people that don't know it exists or what it is or anything like that would be another cool opportunity. And because just Mel is a people person and it's just people.
And you don't explore like asexuality or even like someone who's aromantic on television a lot.
No. And I think it's the kind of thing that, you know, I have friends who are asexual or aromantic, and I can guarantee they've never seen themselves. So much so that they start doubting a lot of things about them because they're like, well, it doesn't seem like it's a thing. And it's like, no, it is. And I think there's also something so beautiful in it. And we think of, I think those who are not asexual think of it as something to feel sad about. But the truth is it's all about companionship and friendship. And it's such a lovely thing. And it's just something that isn't talked about. And I just see that for Mel. Again, I have to keep it loose enough where my brain can't be completely made up in that in case the writers want something else. But that is how I've always seen it. And I've always seen the Langdon relationship as a beautiful platonic relationship, because I also think that, you know, relationships between colleagues, one who's married with children and one who's as sweet and totally wouldn't do that as Mel. It's just, I want to see more opposite sex platonic relationships on TV.
Was it a conscious decision on his part to go sit in the ambulance bay, or was it he simply like in shock and just kind of ended up out there still in the gown covered in blood?
I think I think he feels humiliated by his own actions. I think the weight of the day is catching up to him, and he felt like he was talking such a big game all day. He was aware of his losses, and then for it to end like this, where he loses somebody and blames himself, I think he can't face anyone in this moment. He's so filled with embarrassment and shame that he has to sneak outside. That, and I think I do think he experiences some degree of grief for Mr. Green. You know, English teacher to English teacher, giving him the James Baldwin and everything. It's the only attachment he's made through the course of this hellish day, and to lose that person is very difficult for him.
Then we got that great Ogilvie Whitaker scene.
Yeah.
How much did Whitaker help him by like telling him about his first day, and also by pointing out like what he likes about working in the ER, because he's telling him like the good and the bad, and that's what this job is. It's both.
I think it's medicine for Ogilvie's soul, you know, because I think what Whitaker is talking about is sort of something that would be antithetical to Ogilvie's perfectionist mindset, which is, I believe, the quality of grace and self-forgiveness. I think Ogilvie is learning that no matter what effort you put into the day, sometimes go south. Can I swear? Ooh.
Don't worry, it's fine.
Okay. Sometimes things go south. And Whitaker is able to approach this in this lovely echo from season 1 with him and Robbie, right? Where it's about finding the balance. Ogilvie doesn't have balance as a concept in his life. He sort of throws himself into everything. His ambition is so massive. And then for it to come crashing down, he lives in these absolutes, you know, which is why I think this loss is so devastating for him. To hear that balance is possible, I think, is hope in a moment when he desperately needs it.
How much did it mean to Ogilvie that Whitaker made it so he didn't have to go back inside?
Oh God, everything, everything. Yeah, I think I don't know what happens tomorrow for Ogilvy, but I think everything's a little more possible because of Whitaker's kindness, including not having to see the rest of the staff and that.
Why did it have to be Whitaker? Like, do you think there are any other doctors who could have helped Ogilvy like he needed in that moment?
That's a really good question. I think it had to be Whitaker. I think Whitaker has been the most patient with Ogilvy all day. I think Whitaker was there when Ogilvy started. You know, they were partnered together for the first few hours. So he saw Ogilvy at his height of cockiness. And now for him to hold Ogilvy at the lowest of lows, I think there's a poetic understanding to that relationship, you know, which is just Whitaker being a doctor in the sense of how a doctor is also a guide and someone who walks with somebody through their suffering. Ironically, Whitaker's being the exact thing that Ogilvy needs in his doctoring, you know, and now he's receiving it. So when Whitaker says, like, I like being there for people on the worst days of their lives, and he looks at Ogilvy, I think he knows that in addition to the patients, this is the worst day of Ogilvy's life too.
Well, I was saying, I don't think anyone else would have had the patience at that point because
Yeah,
everyone
no,
else is dealing with so much.
yeah. I mean, the day's been crazy. Ogilvy's burned a lot of bridges at that point, you know.
True. Talk about filming that scene with Gavin.
Man, I loved the scene from the moment it hit my inbox. I had this deep knowing of what it was and what I wanted it to be. And I have to give a moment of appreciation for the writers too, because Dr. Joe, who wrote that, is so exceptional and knew exactly how to land the plane in this incredibly graceful, uncertain way. I think the beauty of it is that I think Ogilvy doesn't really get a redemption arc as much as a destruction arc, in that the person that began the day, who ostensibly should succeed in an environment like the pit on paper, ends up being completely obliterated by it. I think the person he was at the start of the day is shattered, and he is left in this husk of his former ambition, how much of his identity was tied into his success in this profession, and then for one day to render him so helpless that he thinks, I have to quit. For Ogilvy to be like, I'd be great with children, let me go into peds. Do you know what I mean? Like, what from I think I was born to do this, even after a couple of setbacks, to I think I have to quit. What a detrimental day. So props to the writers for setting that up so beautifully. Garen is so easy to work across. He's patient and kind and so generous as an actor. We sort of fell into a rhythm of the scene right away. I think we got there and we were like chatting a little bit, and then we both put our headphones in and we just sort of started doing our own work. And then it was time to shoot, and it just sort of, it felt easy in a way because I think it just felt right. But I think most scenes with Garen just feel right because he's so available as an actor. I love working with him. And that scene will always hold a very special place in my heart.
You said you put your headphones in, so is there a song that you listened to before that scene?
It's a series of songs, yeah. Well, it's it's so embarrassing. I reuse playlists. This is I played a doctor who experienced loss in a play, in a Chekhov play in grad school. And I was, as soon as I saw the scene, I was like, oh, there's some of that character in this. So I revisited an old playlist, and it was helpful.
What songs are on that playlist?
That's a trade secret, and it'd be so embarrassing if everybody found out.
So you said you don't know about what tomorrow holds for Ogilvy, but like, how serious, like, do you think he is about not being able to do another day? Like, what's like the percentage of him coming back tomorrow?
As the audience, as an audience member, hot take, think Ogilvy could be a great doctor. I think Whitaker's really right in his assessment in that scene, which is like, you've got a really good head, you're sharp, There are some things you need to learn. Please don't quit. I think my hope for Ogilvie is that he gives it another shot, and it's not a day like any episode of The Pit is, where it's just, more like one common thing I hear, not critique, but like a comment that I hear from medical professionals now that it's coming out is like, damn, that's a crazy day. Like, yeah, we see all of that, but maybe not all in the same day. I think Ogilvie's a really realistic representation of what would happen to somebody if it was all in the same day, impossible to shoulder. So I really hope that he does come back, give it one more try, and it's smoother sailing and he's able to reconnect with his love. There's this thing about actors too, which I relate to in this, which is that a lot of times you'll hear an actor be like, I quit. I can't do this anymore. It's too hard. It's too uncertain. I can't go on. And then I think what they're really asking for is somebody help me. Somebody tell me that I belong here. I want to feel useful. I want to feel needed. And I think Whitaker gives him some of that, which I hope is enough to propel him at least to the very next day.
While you were talking, something that popped in my head was like, do you think he should stay on day shift or give night shift a try?
Oh God. I don't know. Wherever he'd do best, I think would be great for him. Maybe he is more of a night shift personality in his current form, but I think he could do, I think in time, Robbie's tutelage, Whitaker's tutelage, those McKay, all those doctors on day shift, I think they're good for him. And I think if he's smart, he'll stick around.
So yeah. Matteo's in the trauma with Orlando, and we know what that patient means to Mohan. We saw at the beginning, but he's just coming in at this point. So he's just seeing the way that she's reacting to what's happened to Orlando. What is Matteo seeing in her?
And Dr. Mohan, I think, even in the first season, I mean, of course, she's very attentive to her patients. But seeing how her there's a crack in the surface about what this patient means to her. There's a sense of care from Matteo, or of course, when you have a patient leave the hospital and come back in the same day and in worse conditions, and you have your fellow doctor have a visceral response to that, I think it puts everybody on edge. Like, you've known this patient was here before, so. Matteo, and along with all the doctors in the room, they know the intensity of that and they want to handle business accordingly. But I was really sad with that whole storyline and everything. But yeah.
Yeah, because nurses see everything. I always say go to the nurses and they're going to know everything that's going on. They're going to know which doctors to be worried about.
Yeah, absolutely. They're the heartbeat of the hospital. They keep their hands on everything, their eyes on everything, with the patients and the doctors. So for sure, yeah.
Matteo's also there when Giavatti, a bit reluctantly, assists the neurosurgeon Linda with Orlando. And he says in episode 12 that she'll figure out her residency. Because I like that moment that we see that he believes in her. So right. What is Matteo seeing in Giavatti as a doctor at this point?
I think her tenacity and grit to show not just herself, but her fellow coworkers that she belongs. And I think that with any profession, I think people in their community can tell when somebody's really driven to stand out or to just really cement their feet. And I think he appreciates that about her, especially, her being younger, and it's her, I can't remember what year she's in. Third year? Yes, third year, I believe. Yes, third year. But I think he appreciates that, of someone who she's trying to figure out her spot and trying to separate herself from her mom and all these things. And it's a big thing, so I think he really appreciates that in her and sees and the tenacity and grit that she's trying to do in the medical field. Yeah.
Matteo also witnesses Robbie's remark about not knowing if survival is what Orlando was hoping for. All shift, people have been seeing something's off with Robbie, but Matteo's just coming in at the end of this for him. So what is Matteo seeing in Robbie? Is he picking up on things?
I would definitely say, even acting in those scenes of picking up on, it's a heavy thing to say, especially in those circumstances. And I think it's kind of I like to think that, everybody in the hospital, you're in this pressure cooker with your fellow coworkers, that if something's off with the person to your side, you're gonna notice. And so of course there's something off about Robbie the past, couple hours, and even coming in for those first two. There's a difference. And to make that comment with about that patient in that circumstance is definitely something that Matteo noticed. But yeah, I'd say that for sure.
Yeah, because he also saw all of the first season shift. He saw what happened to Robbie there, but also like how long has Matteo been on night shift? Like how much has he still been seeing of like the day shift? Because we're seeing how much the day shift doctors are affected by things like with Mohan, with Robbie, even with Dana, the Chargers, like we're seeing what she's going through.
Yeah.
How much has Matteo seen of that over these past 10 months?
I like to think that in order to, take a break, I'd probably say about 6 months or so. I mean, after everything that happened the first season, I think it makes sense for a person to be like, I'm going to take a break and just go and completely change my environment. Whether it gets crazier in the night shift, I need some change. And so I think he's been and out of the loop with everybody at the workspace. But like I said, maybe even making some time on the off days to hang out with Giovati or McKay and go get those massages that he promised with her in the first season or something. But I think he's been doing the night shift ever since shortly after the first season to, step away from the chaos of all that, what that was for sure.
Yeah, I like the Matteo and McKay stuff in season 1. That was just fun.
That was fun. And it's funny, me and Fiona, Fiona was one of like I consider her like a mentor, a role model. And so our relationship on screen was like the banter is like how we talk in real life. And it's just it's the fun. She's the best. I love Fiona to death.